Hello, this is Trey from Straight Ahead Samples. I wanted to give you guys an overview of Straight Ahead Bass, our newest library. Um, the idea with this one was to create a companion, obviously, for our first libraries, Straight Ahead Jazz Drums and Straight Ahead Brushes and Mallets. After you have some good drums, you need a good bass to go with them. So that was the first reason. And then also just to sort of have an alternative to the basses that are out there. We didn't really feel like they really represented the true sound of what a acoustic bass is played when it's played and what it sounds like, as far as just sort of the rawness of it and uh, really detailed as far as just we did multiple mic positions and we did some articulations that we feel like really represent the way the bass is really played. It's not a pristine sounding bass. It's not every note plucked perfectly and ringing perfectly, but it's more raw and more real, and I think a lot more successful for those reasons. We recorded a beautiful sounding bass, a beautiful 7/8 size turn of the century German bass played by a great bass player, Randall Farr. He has a great big sound. The bass has a great big sound. So together, it's a pretty great combination. And we did stuff like the multiple mic positions, and we have some interesting scripting, which I'll go into later, to sort of recreate the way bass players really play and the way musicians really play. So let's jump right in. Okay, so first let's just load sustains, just a straight up sustain patch. So this is a good starting point just to kind of check out the sound. You can hear it's got a lot of meat to it. It's big. Sorry, I keep clipping it. Don't want to clip it. So great big sound. We did some interesting things like, for instance, this G. This is the harmonic G on the G string. Almost every bass player on the planet will, in the heat of the moment especially, will play this G as a harmonic to sort of find where they are. So we said, let's just record it that way. It's almost always going to be played like that. The next D and the next G are the same way. So little things like that. Just it's not giving you every possibility, but that G right there sounds realistic when you play it in the middle of a phrase, because that's the way a bass player would play. Let's listen to the mic positions a little bit. So this is a body mic. I call it the body. It's on the bridge. It's sort of a big U47 type mic on the bridge and near the F holes. Probably the best mic by itself. It's sort of just a real good representative mic of the sound. We load these green buttons, load the different mic positions. So here's the neck mic. It's a large condenser up on the fingerboard. It's a much brighter, a lot of finger noise. These are nice mixed together too. Add some brightness. Check out the direct. So the direct signal is not particularly useful by itself, I don't think, but it's nice mixed in. You can just hear what it sounds like. So yeah, you got the direct sound. But some things like mixing if you bring the neck in with the direct, get a little bit of some brighter sound, but it's punchy. It's kind of cool. Also, I think my favorite sound is the body with the direct. So you have the real, the natural sound of that body mic with the pitch information from the direct. It's really cool. You also can click here and send to different outputs, that kind of thing. Great. So let's move on to the articulations. So let's load the slow medium articulations. There's a slow medium, and a medium fast. It's really, we just recorded all the different articulations at 2 different tempos. Actually 3, but we only used 2. Just because we were going to their time machine affected by the length based on your tempo and your DAW. So it doesn't have to stretch too far. Somewhere around 140, 145, it's probably best to go up to the medium fast. Anyway, just kind of showing you some of this stuff. Sample start. So we recorded with some air at the front of the note, a little bit of extra space. You know, the bass actually makes a noise before the pitch is made because the finger's coming across the string. So we wanted to get as much of that as we possibly could. It makes it a little bit latent. I can't feel it, but we thought maybe some people would complain. So there's a sample start. It's incredibly subtle. We didn't want the sound to be messed up too much. So if you feel like it's late, you can crank this up. I don't think most people will need it though. So let's talk a little bit about sort of the concept of this articulations patch and how we sampled it. The idea was to get as realistic performances as possible. We recorded the sustains, the quarter notes, the eighth notes, the staccatos, and the mutes, and the legato transitions within like a phrase, and like sort of an etude that just had one phrase that had all those things we wanted in it, and it's sort of a natural, hopefully a natural phrase that Randall played, and it just moved chromatically up the bass, and he played it at all the different velocities and round robins. Everything is 4 velocity and 4 round robin. So the idea being that doing it this way, we're getting the true sound of what someone is doing when they're playing a short note or an eighth note, a string of eighth notes, rather than sort of just saying, okay, let's play short notes, and we just record a ton of short notes. Even the best musicians, I think, even though they may have a really great idea of their technique and they understand how they play well, there are these little things that happen when you're actually in the heat of the moment playing a phrase, little noises and little transitionary sounds from one note to the next, for example, that you just can't pretend to do. You can't just you just can't do them without actually being in the middle of playing a phrase. So I think that's it's interesting that I don't think any other sample library has sampled like this. I could be wrong, but so the idea being that we're just extracting an eighth note sample out of this phrase to hopefully get as much of that real sound and some of those imperfections that happen that really make the bass for this library, make the bass sound like what it sounds like. So I'll give you an example. So there's a key switch instrument here. C is the sustains we already heard. Quarter notes here, full value quarter notes. If you can hear the tempo we're at. I don't know if you can hear that click, but so they just play at the right length. Full value quarter note, and then eighth notes. Staccato notes and or eighth notes. And we also have mutes. The mod wheel goes up and gives you mutes. There's actually a little glitch there that it doesn't show you the right sustain, the right articulation when you bring it back. Anyway, we'll fix that. So that's what you're dealing with. And so, for example, in the quarter notes, if you listen to that, if I play that with the sustain patch and just let it go, almost the same, except you can hear there's like a growl in the bass as he starts to pick up his finger to move to the next note. Remember, he's playing that A flat in the midst of a phrase. As he picks up his finger, and that G has it too, that you can really hear it, he picks up that finger and it has the timbre changes. So not only are we getting those nice clicky kind of finger lifting sounds between the note, but you're getting that change of the sound of the note as he picks it up. So that's something that you just aren't getting anywhere else in any other sample library. And I thought we think it was really important to do. So that's sort of the idea, and we're going to continue with the same concept with our next libraries and go even a little deeper. But that's the idea with the quarter notes. So if you have a walking bass thing and you're going to play it in, suggest using the quarter notes patch. Or if you have a phrase that ends with a full value quarter note, best to use that quarter note rather than the sustain and letting go. It's a subtle difference, but I think on the whole, it makes everything sound more real. Let's look at the eighth notes. So the other thing that comes into play is this accented legato. So this was the script that we recorded these eighth notes, and it turned out for this library, for the bass, those staccato notes and the eighth notes, when we cut them out, we recorded two different samples at a different part of the phrase, and we pulled them out. They sounded exactly the same. So we ended up for RAM and for making it not too big, we used just one of the samples instead of having separate ones. So a string of eighth notes, or it's just staccato notes. Just we're using the same key switch. Okay, so accent and legato. So the idea with this was we not only did we record the samples like that, but we extracted legato transitions from a particular part of the beat. Our idea being that the way we phrase eighth notes, specifically eighth notes, it can't be achieved by just having generic legato. So when I say generic legato, I mean having a legato transition between every single note isn't particularly realistic because people don't play exactly the same, for example, from beat 1 to the end of 1 as they do from the end of 1 to beat 2. Even though they're just three eighth notes in a row, you can't just have a legato transition on all of those because that's not the way someone actually plays. The way they actually play is we tend to accent on the ands, for example, and we tend to slur the strong beats. So N1, N2, N3, N4. Badu, 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 bada. So what happens is in this script, the accent legato script, in the background, if your DAW is running and it's playing at the right tempo, or playing at the tempo, and you're playing eighth notes, it's gonna put that legato transition in the right spot. So it's gonna leave out the legato transition when you're playing at a certain part of the beat, and it's gonna put it in when you're playing in the other one. So let's just kind of hear what it sounds like. I have that click on. 1, 2, 3. How B da dee da dee ya dee ya. So for that specifically, you're getting half steps. You're actually getting like pull offs, only on the beats. Interesting. So this is sort of the first step of this concept, but it's pretty effective. And like I said, you don't have to think about it too much. It's just sort of happening in the background. If you play eighth notes, or even in the sustain patch, it does it also. The accent legato works. It doesn't do anything on the quarter note patch. But I tend to just leave it on unless there seems to be some little bug going around with this first version with some of the mic positions. So we're working on fixing that. So if you have experienced something weird with it, I maybe turn it off. But it should be good. So so that's the idea with the accent legato, and it proves to be at a really realistic phrasing to just sort of normal playing. So so that's that. If we can check out the muted. too. Kind of cool. Little ghost notes in between notes. Very effective. And so this Legato crossfade knob, this is a kind of a, I'll kind of show you. It basically, this just kind of turns up. You hear it's a longer crossfade between the legato samples, so that's probably too high up, but I like it somewhere around here, 30 milliseconds. But you can really hear it doing its thing there. Bo, ba, yeah. It's probably a little. That's actually really good. So, yeah, mess with that if you want to hear a little bit more of that legato transition. It just kind of slows it down some. Great. So lastly, let's take a look at the Arco bass. Basically, the idea was just to have a sort of quick and dirty Arco with the exact same setup with the mic positions. As you can see, there's nothing really in the interface. But it's a mod wheel control velocity. Yeah, so you can obviously mess with the mic positions, get a different sound, get some. Really digging in on it. Sounds awesome. Yeah, so that's the idea. It's not particularly detailed. We did record some legato transitions, but we didn't use them. Maybe we'll do something down the road. So it's really just meant to be a sort of companion to the rest, starting tunes, ending tunes with a nice straight tone Arco that matches the exact same sound as the rest of the bass. So that's it. So thanks so much for watching, and check out, there'll be some other videos we'll do with this, kind of showing it in action a little more. Thanks.